If you test that and you're not getting a lot of people that are actually replying to the email, you can use some sort of survey, whether you use SurveyMonkey, we use Google Forms just because it's easy for us. And we say exactly the same thing. We'd love to hear how best we can help you with your insert, again, balance, fitness, flexibility. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Female Empowered. I'm your host, Krista Gurka, and if you're watching me on video, which I do some video for these podcasts, I got a new pair of headphones. I'm not sure really why I got them. Somebody told me they'd be better for recording a podcast, so I blindly listened to them. But they are kind of comfortable. They do block out the noise, so I don't have to hear my kids yelling in the background. So enough about that. Thank you for joining me for another episode. And thank you for joining me for this journey. Really, I mean, since January, so we've been at this for 6 months. We've been consistently releasing 2 episodes a week, and we are about to break the $4,000 download spot. And my goal was close to that. My goal was to get up to 5,000 by the end of the year. So I'm really, really excited. I know for sure we're going to hit those. So if you continue to share this episode with other people, it would really mean a lot to me. If you take a screenshot and tag me on Instagram, that would be great. It also lets me know that I'm really sharing valuable information for you. And if you want to DM me some topics of some things that you would like to hear, mainly I speak to female healthcare, wellness, fitness, movement professionals, and all things about related to business and so on. So that being said, today I'm going to talk about the anatomy of what an email nurture sequence should look like. So this is very commonplace in the online space where you do these, what we call either a welcome sequence or a nurture sequence or an onboarding sequence. It basically it's helping the business create that know, like, and trust factor with you, the audience. So you as a business also want to create that. And if you're a brick and mortar business, it's not as common. So what I want to do today is go over the exact sequence that you can use if you would like to have some sort of an onboarding or welcome sequence. What's really great about that is that it kind of just gives your new customer an idea of what they can expect by doing business with you. It kind of goes above and beyond what normal businesses can do. And so this is another way that if you're willing to do what others are not doing, it just sets you apart in your niche. Creating that blue ocean versus red ocean. And if you're not sure what that is, DM me on Instagram. I'll let you know what blue ocean versus red ocean is. So today, what I'm going to do is go through what an email nurture sequence, kind of like the framework around it, and then give you some examples of what we use in our business. Most of you already know that email marketing is crucial to growing your business and generating new customers. One of the reasons it's so powerful is because you own those emails. We don't own our Facebook likes or even our Facebook followers. We don't own Instagram. You don't own Twitter or Pinterest, because if that software or that platform goes away tomorrow, all of those relationships that you have built is gone. But your emails you own. Now, some people will say, well, what if I lose my email subscription? I mean, if there's some sort of hack and your email list gets wiped, they usually have some sort of backup to that, but you own that. That is your intellectual property. And so I'm a big, big, big believer in just gaining people's emails. Now, that being said, people also realize that once they give away their email, they're going to be flooded. Their inbox is going to be flooded. And if you looked at my personal email box right now, it has 10,543 emails in there because I don't actually hardly use that one anymore. I'm happy to say my business inbox only has 5 emails. So I'm very proud of myself. So to get somebody to give you their email, you want to provide something of value. And we are going to talk about that in an upcoming episode of what you can give, whether people call it a lead magnet or a freebie or some sort of offer that you can give them that is worth them trading their email for. All right. So at this point, they've given you their email with some sort of a freebie or a lead magnet, or they've opted in on your scheduling platform, or you have their schedule to come in for their very first session with you. Now is where you want to start this onboarding sequence, right? It's generally a sequence of 3 to 5 emails, and they are distributed usually anywhere between 7 and 30 days or 45 days after that they give you their email address. Okay, there's some, we're going to talk about later a little bit about how the time between each email is. And I don't think there's any real scientific data on that, or I'm sure there probably is, but I haven't read anything that I'm like, oh, that really works. And so we've tested a variety of different send dates, and they've all been relatively consistent in what our open rate is and our click-through rate is, which is what we test when we know if an email is working, to see if an email is working or not. Okay, so what does an onboarding sequence do? Well, what it does is it sets the tone for your relationship with this new customer. It starts to create the kind of rapport that you want to have with this new customer. It lets them get to know you and also lets you get to know a little bit about them, hopefully. And then last but definitely not least, it really starts to train your subscribers that they will get value when they open your emails, okay? Open emails equals value. And so one of the metrics we track in our email campaigns is open rate. Okay, so we are going to now move into what this actual sequence should look like. Okay, so number one, what does your customer need to know about you and or your industry to make buying a no-brainer? And this is if they have not bought yet, or if they've bought an intro offer and you want them to eventually upgrade into a longer term membership or package. Okay, so what does your customer need to know about you specifically or your industry to make buying or doing business with you an absolute no-brainer? So number one for that is your story. What is your story? Storytelling is a great way to get people to kind of resonate with your story, meet you where you are, and for you to really meet them where they are. All right. So number two, what do you do and why do you do it? Simon Sinek says, and I'm a true believer in this, that people will buy why you do what you do. Okay. They don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So sorry, Simon, if I butchered your quote. But he has a great book, Start With Why. It is all about that. We talk about this in all of our mentorship programs, Start With Why. It's a big thing. And if you go through our FitBiz Foundations program, there is an entire module on how to determine your why. And then lastly, what benefits will they get from working with you? What is the transformation that they will experience? So now what can you do to train your audience to actually open all of your emails? Well, one, we talked about that. They have to know that there's going to be value in that email, especially with our industry in healthcare, wellness, and fitness. We're usually sending a ton of emails because maybe they get an email confirmation about their appointment, then they get an email reminder, and then they get a follow-up, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really important that they know that some of these emails are going to have a ton of value in it. And you have to figure out what is valuable for them. This is actually when we do a ton of our market research, when we're going through our ideal customer workshops. And we actually have an ideal customer intensive workshop that I think is like $17 up on my website. If you visit www.kristagurka.com/ICA, it's a great little workshop to really hone in on what your clients think is valuable. And then another way to train your audience to open all of your emails is to use great subject lines. Subject lines have been proven to be one of the number top 3 reasons why people open emails. Top 1 is if they know who it's from. Top 2 is if they know that person is going to give them value. And number 3 is usually the subject line grabs them. Okay. So now what does this email sequence look like? Now, this is general. This is something that I have used for a while, and you don't have to necessarily have all 5 of these. So I have a 5-step onboarding sequence. I recommend at least 3 steps, at least 3 onboarding emails that will come within the first 3 weeks after someone has signed up with you. Okay, so number 1, I call it the ask email. And this is really getting to know your customers. In our number 1 email, which we call the ask, we use a survey, or we say something like reply to this email. So you're asking a question that is relevant to your customers. Something like, let me know how we can best help you with your insert balance, mobility, pain, fitness, weight loss, whatever that can be. Okay. And then you can just say, just hit reply and let me know where you're at. And so now what you're doing is you're training them to open the email, and you're also training them to respond and engage with you. The other way you can test this, if you test that and you're not getting a lot of people that are actually replying to the email, you can use some sort of survey, whether you use SurveyMonkey, we use Google Forms just because it's easy for us. And we say exactly the same thing. We'd love to hear how best we can help you with your insert, again, balance, fitness, flexibility, pain. Let us know which is your top priority right now. Check off this quick survey or something. And then they click a link, and it's literally one question that says, what's your number 1 goal over the next 3 weeks? And it's like, lose weight, get rid of pain, be able to walk better, whatever the case may be. And they literally click a button and then it goes through. So again, it's teaching them how to click. So now what we're going to look at in that email is how many people opened it, and then how many people actually clicked the link. And metrics tells you something. That's why you track data. So that's the ask email. It usually comes pretty soon, right after they purchase. And it's something really quick, really sweet, like really short, and just getting them to reply to you. After that comes what we call our belief, which is kind of our why. Okay. Or if you're a solopreneur, if you are the brand, you could say my belief. Okay. You want to use language that will lead them down the road to buy from you in the future. Let me give you an example. In our niche, we do Pilates and physical therapy. Okay. So if people are coming into our Pilates kind of funnel, the example we use is 5 myths about Pilates we want all of our clients to know. If they come down the physical therapy path, we usually use 5 myths about pain I wish I knew before having back surgery. Okay. And then in the 5 myths about Pilates, we do something like, we say one of the myths is that it's only about core work, right? Another myth is that it was going to be hard and intimidating, right? Another myth is that it was only for advanced practitioners. Because what we're doing is we're trying to let people know you can come sit with us. You can come try this with us, regardless of where you are in your fitness journey. If you're talking about the 5 myths about back pain, or what I wish I would have known before having surgery, one of those answers is going to be, I wish I knew I could go see a physical therapist before having surgery. Direct access, right? For those physical therapists out there. I wish I would have known that some exercise may have improved my situation prior to surgery. So what we're trying to do is get them to eventually say, oh, I want to then do Pilates. I want to then go see a physical therapist, right? So you're leading them down the path to eventually buy from you. Okay, so that's number 2 on the sequence outline. Then usually number 3 is your story. Okay, your story. And this is where you can either put it in one email, or we split it into 2. Again, this is talking about your why. Okay, I split ours into 2. So we have part one is our initial story. It talks about, well, if you are on my list for kind of like the podcast and the business coaching and mentoring, my why really talks about how I grew up with a single mom and I saw her struggle to put food on the table and raise 3 kids by herself. And one of my whys is that if I can help even one female business owner pave the way for financial independence and be able to create a legacy for the future of her family, that for me is the utmost reward. Now, if you talk about the Pilates and physical therapy part, the why that so many people have been told that they just can't and they have to live with the pain. And my why is to show people they can be empowered to get rid of their pain, to be able to do all the things in their life that they really desire and that they deserve to do. So that is where the why comes from for us. Then we have actually a part two. It just breaks it up into 2 smaller emails. And then the second part of our story talks about what makes us an authority to give that information. Okay. So part 1 talks about our why and why we do what we do. Part 2 talks about why we are an authority to be able to do that. Let me give you an example. For the business consultant portion, if I'm talking about the business consultant portion and I'm talking about my why and growing up with a single mom, and that I just want to help impact as many female business owners as I possibly can, then I go into why I am an authority on this. Well, I grew a multiple 7-figure business from the ground up without a business degree. So I've been 3 or 4 steps ahead of where a lot of my students and other female business owners want to get to. And so that's why I am an authority. If you go over to the Pilates in the Grove, why are we an authority? Well, one, have over 50% of our staff are physical therapists who are highly trained and knowledgeable into movement, anatomy, biomechanics, and working with injuries. And we've been doing it for over 100 years of combined experience. That makes us an authority. So those are the 2 parts to the story. I've seen a lot of people combine that into one email, which is fine. Okay. And then the 5th one, which I do encourage everyone to use, is what we call testimonials or social proof. So basically you are doing testimonials and social proof of clients that have experience working with you. They can be what we call customer-centric testimonials. And let me give you an example of that. An example of a customer-centric testimonial is when you discuss the customer themselves and what their journey has been. So in other words, Jane was having back pain for several months and was worried she wasn't going to be able to play in her tennis tournament at the end of the summer. Someone recommended she tries Pilates. Initially, she was a little intimidated, but after being consistent with her workout twice a week for 4 weeks, her pain was completely gone and she was able to successfully play in her tennis tournament and came in second. Again, I'm making this whole thing up. That didn't happen, but it doesn't even talk about necessarily Pilates in the Grove, but what it does say is she was nervous. Somebody recommended Pilates. She didn't really know that much about it. She took the leap of faith and started Pilates, and Pilates really helped her and she achieved her goal. Some people will resonate with that because they'll be like, oh, maybe I should try Pilates, right? And if they hear that, they're going to think Pilates in the Grove because you're the one that's giving that testimonial. Then you have business-centric testimonials, which would talk about Pilates in the Grove. So that same exact example would be, let me tell you about our client, Jane. When Jane first came to Pilates in the Grove, she reported 5 out of 10 back pain and she was no longer able to play tennis. Her goal was to play in a tennis tournament at the end of the summer. We got her started with a few private sessions, and within 2 weeks, she was coming consistently twice a week to classes. And after a 4-week time period, her pain was completely resolved and she was able to successfully complete in her tennis tournament. Want to be like Jane? Give us a call at Pilates in the Grove. So those are two different types of testimonials. And in a testimonial email, I would say try to use two of them, okay? I don't recommend using last names. I recommend just using first names or first initials if you'd like. You always definitely want to ask your client's permission, but most people, to be perfectly honest, are super, super happy to help you out, especially if you have really helped them out, right? So if you've really helped them out with their pain or their movement or their fitness, they really are happy to help you out and be a testimonial or a customer review, right? So we call that social proof. There actually is another episode, and I can't actually remember which episode it was, but there is one that is all about social proof. Let me see if I can remember which episode that is. I believe that's episode 30. And at the very least, it should be around episode 30. It talks about how to create social proof for your business. So if you haven't listened to that one, you can go back and take a listen to how to create social proof for your business. All right. So now back to the email sequence. So that's basically the email sequence for a welcome onboarding sequence. Like I said, we use 5 emails. You don't have to use 5, you can use 3. And I recommend sending them 2 to 3 days apart. So if you're doing 3 days apart and you've got 5 emails, it's going to take you about 2 weeks to send them all out. All right. And then when we talk also about what you want to create as far as value for your customers, for them to open it, you could include a video of some sort. Here's a video. Video testimonials are great. So those are great for the last email of social proof. You could also include a video of what to expect on your first class or your first session with you. You could do a video tour of the studio. That might be great. We have actually what we call a Pilates 101, which is basically breaks down the different movement patterns, what we talk about breathing, a little bit of history of Pilates. And so that is in one of the emails talking about, in case you were wondering, a little bit about the history of Pilates. Here you can go. It's kind of in that our belief system. That's our second one. And then we also have things of, if you're looking for additional resources, and we have a list of resources that people can use, books or other links, our on-demand platform, we can use those. Now, when you're talking about subject lines, I'm going to read you the subject lines that I use for my business and consulting mentorship email. So the welcome email sequence, again, I use 5, and these are the email subject lines that I actually use. Welcome to the Doers Club. That's email number 1 that goes out pretty much right after they purchase, right after they sign up for something. It goes, welcome to the Doers Club. My second email is what I believe, and it's 5 steps to a successful business. Okay, so they're going to know, here are these 5 steps that every successful business needs. They're going to want to read that. All right. Then the next email, this is the first one about my story. And it says, once upon a time, I was just like you. And it talks about my story. And then that I do 2 story emails. So this next one after that is my story continues. And it says, I didn't earn $5 million by myself. And that goes into how I created a multiple 7-figure business, but it was not alone. It was through building a team and through hiring coaches and through surrounding myself with like-minded people. And then email number 5, which is what we're talking about, whether it be case studies or testimonials. The subject line is, let's write your success story. And it talks about other people's success stories. So those are the subject lines that are really good. In our membership community, I know they have access to, I think it's 50 top subject lines that range in everything from, there's a lot of different sections. they're time sensitive emails. They are attention grabber emails. The myth email is really good. 5 myths I wish everyone knew about back pain. That's a really good one. So there's the don't do subject lines. Think something like, don't do this if you want your back pain to resolve, something like that. Okay. So I know that my mentorship groups have the access to 50 great subject lines. It may be up on my website. I'm not 100% sure if it is or not, but you can check it out if you want to visit kristagurka.com. It might be one of the freebies on my website. Okay, so just to reiterate, I want to just go back and talk about what an onboarding sequence does, okay? It helps to set the tone for your relationship with your customers. It starts to create rapport with them, and it really does start to train them to know that they will get value from opening your emails. The sequence is generally, number 1 is the ask email, asking them to reply or give you some sort of information about that. Number 2 is, what are your beliefs as a company? Okay, what are your beliefs? Number 3 and number 4 are starting to tell your story. What is your why when it comes to why you do what you do? And number 5 is case studies, social proof, or testimonials. All right, emails generally be sent around 3 to 4 days apart. So they span anywhere from 3 to 30 days, depending on how long between each email you're sending them. So I hope that that was valuable to you. I really enjoy talking about that. If you do not have a welcome sequence or an onboarding sequence right now, I highly suggest you go back and listen to this podcast again and start writing one out. Start writing out an email sequence, even if it's just a few lines, and even if you can get at least 3 of them. And then what you want to track is, are people opening your emails? Okay. Usually a good open rate is anything above 20%. If you're hitting over 25 or 30% open rate, that's awesome. You're hitting it out of the park. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you'll come back in a couple days. And the next episode is a Female Friday feature. I really enjoy talking to my female guests on Fridays. And then come back next week and catch us, where we're going to talk about all of the good, the bad, and the ugly of how I built my team. All right, everyone, have a great day. And until next time, bye for now.